Hello, hello, hello. I just wanted to pop in and encourage you. I am super excited about this interview series. You are going to be inspired as you move forward seeking your purpose. You'll get information here that will help you on your reinvention journey. So, no, just taking small steps, no matter how small they are, you are moving forward. You're moving forward in that trajectory that you are trying to create for yourself. So, stay tuned, listen in, come back for the whole series. I know with each interview, you are going to get a nugget that you can apply to your life and be on the path for fulfillment. See you later. Welcome to today's episode of Blossom with Pride, where we inspire and empower women, particularly empty nester moms, to embrace their next chapter and live in their divine purpose. I'm your host, Nicole Pride, and today I am super excited to have with us today Dr. Sabrina J. Ellis. She is a dynamic leader, an author, and she's dedicated her life to empowering women to reclaim their identity and walk boldly in their God-given purpose. So, with a wealth of wisdom and passion and information, she's going to share with us about how we can live better and develop stronger relationships with our family and develop in our personal growth. And so Dr. Ellis is here to share all of that with you. And we're so, again, super excited. So welcome, 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 Dr. Ellis, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And so this whole concept here of living in your divine purpose. So that's what we're all about here at Blossom with Pride. Where did that come from? Where is that passion for you to help people live in their purpose?
Well, one of the things for me is that so often we find ourselves trying to, we first compare ourselves with others, and then we try to emulate some of the things that other people do because we see them as successful and we want some of that success. And so oftentimes we lose who we really are. We don't
Mhm.
even consider what our divine purpose may be. And so that kind of gets pushed to the back while we're looking to accomplish what somebody else has accomplished, or to have what someone else has, or do what somebody else has done. When
Mhm.
you're an individual, I'm an individual, and you have a purpose, and you're finding your purpose in Nicole with Pride. I think I said that correctly.
Blossom with Pride, but it's all good. Yeah.
Blossom with Pride. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Nicole is your first name.
Yeah.
Blossom with Pride. And then I find my purpose in other things, in other ways. And so the other issue that we deal with is the seasons of life. And so when things change, there are major changes in our lives, then
Mhm.
we try to figure out, how do we move forward? Is there a new purpose? Do we stick with what the purpose was in the beginning, or
Mhm.
find ourselves recreating ourselves? So
Mhm.
um, at this stage of my life, I have gone through the empty nesting. I lost my husband in 2020. And so right now in this season, it's redefining myself, understanding what my purpose is in this season, how it connects with what my original purpose
Mhm.
has been. And so it takes work.
Yeah. So you said so much that I do not want to gloss over. I really want to underscore a few points. So the first thing you talked about is that whole comparison thing, right? That is real and that will destroy a person,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Um, yeah. And so, particularly in this age of social media, when everything looks so perfect, everything is so curated, and people really are living their best life, and so you start to look at yourself. And I that's what got me in trouble, quite frankly, and what started this whole thing. I said to myself, oh, by a certain age, I should be doing X, Y, and Z. And I wasn't there. And so I nearly killed myself to be who I thought I should be. Right. And literally, like, and I shared this in another episode, but falling asleep on the highway, just sacrificing sleep because I thought I had to have this position, had to have, all the things. And so, what would you say to people to help them combat against that,
Well, first, let me be a little transparent because I too have had to deal with that. But for me, and the way it impacted me, and I suspect it impacts many women the same way, is you start to have these issues with confidence. You lack
Mhm,
confidence because you feel like you're not measuring up, or you haven't arrived at the place you thought you would arrive in the time you thought you would. And so
mhm,
um, I personally have dealt with, am dealing with, not on the same level. I've grown
mhm,
tremendously, but I feel like it's the transparency when talking to people. I'm not talking about something that I read in a book. I read it in a book. The book confirmed what I was feeling about myself, but it was because of the comparison.
mm,
I'm not that good. I'm not good enough. I
mhm,
can't do what they do.
mm.
Well, I'm not required to do what anybody else does.
Yes,
I'm
amen.
required to live within my purpose and
Right.
be confident in what the gifts are that have been given to me. And
Mhm,
that's what becomes the challenge for many to see ourselves as gifted
mhm,
and even as a gift to the
mm,
community, a gift
mhm,
to what wherever we're serving, wherever we're developing relationships and developing community. And sometimes it's difficult, and a lot of it, which we do not have time for today, but a lot of it goes back to our upbringing, to our experiences, the things that we were taught, the things that have been said to us, and we
right.
don't realize how we take those things in and literally define ourselves based on something somebody else said to us.
Yeah, I know. It's really a mind shift change that you have to go through.
Yeah, and that's difficult.
Right.
See,
Particularly if you're talking about, things that were planted in you from childhood, but even just getting to the point where you're talking about the confidence, right? My husband drills that into our youngest son right now who's with us at home. Our oldest son is off to college already, but the confidence is just so key. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And taking the time to recognize and identify the gifts that you're talking about, and people don't do that, right? And they probably don't even know where to start. Like, how do you identify the gifts? Do you have any tips about how people can identify their gifts? Mhm.
one very simple thing is to ask the people that you're around most often, what do they see in you? What do
Mhm.
they see to be your strengths, or what do they see to be your weaknesses? And it's best to ask people that you're with on a regular basis. I mean, if you pick a good five or six, I don't know, could be friends, co-workers, a
Mhm.
family member, maybe one, but a group of people that you feel like would be truthful and that you would accept whatever they say, that they will actually be honest enough to share what they see. That's one way. Then there are all kinds of gift assessments that you
Right.
take,
Mhm.
gift assessments that will help you and direct you, you know, for people who are who may be engaged in seeing a therapist. There are all kinds of assessments that are offered in that setting. But when you really want to figure out who you are, if you don't really know, those are ways to start.
Mm-hmm.
Just sit down and think about, what is it that you've always liked to do? What is it that you've always wanted to do? What have you been attracted to? Those kinds of things. And so a lot of times you'll find out you're gifted to teach, you're gifted to
Mm-hmm.
help.
Mm-hmm.
There are many, gifts, but I think those are a couple of the easiest ways to get started.
Right. And so I do offer a course that I do recommend people doing spiritual gifts assessments. I've done that for myself. I've taken 3, and one thing it'll do, it'll either confirm some things that you already knew about yourself or enlighten you to get you to think about some areas that you hadn't considered.
Right.
And for me, I tell you, across all 3, um, one gift came up number 1 and 2 into the assessments, and then the same gift came up at least within the top 2 or something in the third assessment. So it was just like you could not deny that, you
Right.
could not deny it. Yeah.
It-
And so you had talked about the other thing that you mentioned is just different seasons of life, right? And particularly, we're talking about empty nester moms and this season. And as we were chatting with before, um, many women, because they've raised their kids, until they're maybe like late teens, early 20s, they gave like their whole life to their children or child. And they just put themselves on the back burner, and haven't given themselves the time to evolve, right? So, like, basically, they pushed the pause button on their lives, devoted everything to their kids. And then, after they do the big drop off on the college campus, right? They're just like, oh, wait, what? What do I do now? And you talked about your own transition, life event, like losing your husband, right? So there are these different triggers that people go through. Are you able to share about what that process was like for you after dealing with such a major significant and I'm sorry for your loss. Mhm.
No, thank you. Thank you. It helps to talk about it. But the first thing, of course, was my children going off to school. And, even when they went to school, I figured they're coming back, right? And then they
Mhm.
come home for a little bit because the
Yeah.
whole time they've been planning their exit, right? So
Yeah.
so I will admit that like initially kind of drove me crazy because both my daughters left at the same time,
Okay.
moved out of state. And
Hmm.
so I was a wreck initially, but I told my husband, it's a good thing we like each other. We enjoy, but
Yeah.
we came to grips with it, and we stayed busy in ministry and whatnot. But in 2019, he suffered a stroke after
Mm.
battling cancer for many years, off and on.
Wow.
You
Yeah.
never knew you wouldn't know he had cancer unless somebody told you, because he went through all the treatments, came out
Mhm.
like, like champ, never lost his hair, none of any of those common things that you would expect. But the
Mhm.
stroke kind of took him down
Wow.
unbelievably. And so um he seemed to have been recovering, and then we got into 2020, and we all know the pandemic
Yeah.
during that time. But he never fully recovered. Um, Cancer didn't take him out. Actually, you know, I don't know how much the stroke had to do with it, but he was on his way to recovery, and just at the point of his passing, it was just his heart stopped beating. That's the
Mm.
best way they could describe it. His heart
Wow.
stopped beating.
Wow.
So that has been a major, major transition for me and my girls.
Mhm.
just trying to figure out life without him because he was such a major part of our lives.
Mm,
I can't even explain how major, not just our pastor, not just the father, but some of everything. You just name it. And he was our answer for everything. And so it was a major loss. But I felt like I feel like I have come out of a fog. You
mhm,
probably understand grief, or anybody listening understands grief. It's kind of sneaks up on you right when you think you're coming away from it. But
mhm,
it wasn't just the grief, it was almost like living in an unreal world. But at the same time, I was deciding, I had already decided, hadn't figured out how I was going to accomplish it. I want to live,
mhm,
and I want to figure out how I'm going to get past this and figure out what my future looks like.
mhm,
Without my husband, my kids gone on to develop their families. They have, they're both married, and I mean, I left home, so I had to leave my parents with that same
right. Yeah.
life. It's just what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Even the loss, losing a spouse, or anyone for that matter. As much as we know academically that that is a process of the life cycle, it happens.
Mhm,
It's not until it happens to you
right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that you recognize the devastation. But in that, I continue to say, I have to figure out what life looks like without him.
Yeah.
He's
Mhm,
not coming back. And so do I just sit back and wait for the decline uh
mhm,
where for myself? And I decided, no, that's not what I'm
mhm,
going to do. I'm going to
mhm.
figure this out. Figure out, how I'm going to be okay, not
Right.
not just financially, but mentally and
Yes.
spiritually,
Yeah.
and rise above the whole grief process. And I made a statement on a social media post not too long ago about overcoming grief and not allowing it to overwhelm me.
Mhm.
It takes work, though. It does.
Yeah. You know that it's totally remarkable what you're saying. Because some women really dealing with the whole empty nester thing, some women go into a depression, right? And so we know it's not the same as death because the children are alive and you'll get to
But
see
it's a
them.
loss. It's
But it's
still
a
a loss.
loss,
Yeah.
right? I totally agree. We had a psychotherapist talk about it as loss and going through the grieving process. But I love the fact that you said you had to make the decision to live. Like that is so powerful. You know, I was sharing with some people who I coach, there's this whole mentality of it will do mentality, right? And it's about just staying stuck and just being in that place and just accepting that, right? And not making the decision to grow and evolve. And so that is the first step to say the current state is not good enough. The current state is not where I want to be. I want more.
Right.
And I think that's just powerful right there, making the decision that you want more out of your life. Yeah. Yeah. And so once you made that decision, how did you start to move forward?
Well, I did initially. I was a lot of things I did. I realized on this end it was part of the grief because I was spending money that I didn't need to spend. But you know, the first thing was waking up one day and realizing I don't want to live in this house. It was the second house that we had built together, um, and it was fine. I was okay, but I decided I didn't want to live in the house any longer, so I moved from there to a townhouse. Tried
Hmm.
to just love the townhouse. It was phenomenal. Um, and it was the season, during the season, I was also pastoring because prior to his passing, he appointed me as pastor because he felt
Mm,
like he wasn't gonna get back up on his feet like he
right.
wanted to. So
Mm.
I pastored through the pandemic.
Wow, that alone.
Yeah. And got us back into the building, and we were worshiping in the building. And then I realized I don't want to do this either.
Mm,
As I have to. And these are conversations I was having with myself. And I thought,
mhm,
people determine what they think you should be doing. And
mhm.
and that's how so many people end up stuck in,
Right.
in situations that they really don't want to be in. So I realized I didn't have to pastor, or I didn't have to stay in a place where people were trying to determine whether they were really okay with me without him, because that, there are all these
That's real.
dynamics. There are
Yeah.
so many dynamics. And this is just my situation, but any situation has so many other pieces
Right.
that are a part of the puzzle. And so I decided to move again. And I left the city I was living in, moved out of state. And
Mhm.
so I've been where I am now for a little over 2 years, maybe right at 2 years. Um,
But I have to stop you right there because that is amazing. Like that's courage, right? So first you made the decision that you can't stay in the state that you're in, but then you were willing to make the changes, right? And you know how hard that is for people to go
yeah,
through change and accept change
it is.
and but change is going to happen regardless, right? And so being the one making those changes is a different position than change being thrusted upon you, right?
Yeah, I don't even think I was thinking of myself as being courageous, not at the time. I
Mhm.
just knew I needed to do something. I couldn't just sit and mope. And of course, I was hurt, I was crying, I was grieving, all of that, but
Mm.
not just add to the depressed state. I
Mhm.
had to work or fight to come out of it. And
Mhm.
that's how I saw myself. And it wasn't until people were asking me about the pastorate and the church, and my response would be, "Oh, I'm no longer pastoring. I've walked away." And they would say what you just said. How courageous. And I was like, and then their thing was nobody quits.
Mhm.
And I thought, but quitting was what was good for me. That's
Mhm.
what I needed to do
Yeah,
to move forward.
right.
So yeah, and I'm doing, I mean, I feel like it was the right decision for me, and
Mhm.
it has helped me to work my way out of what I mentioned a little bit ago, what seemed like a fog.
Yes. Mhm.
I'll always miss him.
Mhm.
There will always be those moments that sneak up on,
Right.
always the holidays, there's always the anniversaries, but it's sort of like deciding, okay, I'm
Mhm.
gonna stay in the moment, but I can't stay here much past this time. I gotta get right. So
Yeah, and thank you because just like on social media, people tell the highlights without the backstory, and so the backstory is key. It was not easy, right? You did have your moments where, like you said, you're crying through it, but you pushed through it. And I think for anyone listening, what they can take away are these key steps, right? Make the decision and push through to make the changes. They don't have to be dramatic changes of like leaving the state or quitting your job, but looking at how you want a richer life, right? What can add more peace to your life, value to your life, joy to your life, and making those steps to do it, right?
absolutely, absolutely. So like even leaving the state, moving from one state to the other, there was meaningful purpose, if you will, because remember my girls had been long gone. Now my
Mhm.
husband passes. I don't
Mm.
really have immediate family. I'm basically there alone.
Mhm.
Family is in the city, in the state that I moved to. It makes
Mhm.
sense. I also started recalling things that my husband had said years prior. If something happens to me, go to where your family is. And
Mm.
I'm like, okay, he already said this. Why don't I
Mm.
just do it? And
Mhm.
so for somebody else, you're right. It may not be that drastic. Your kids are not at home anymore. You're used to looking after them, taking care of them, doing things for them. Figure out what it was you were thinking about doing on those days that you could not
Yeah.
leave your children.
Right.
Whatever you were dreaming about doing then, that's what you probably should
Right, right.
do. Yeah.
So, Dr. Ellis, you are an author. So tell us about that. Tell us about your book.
Well, the last book that I wrote actually was to be introduced at the top of the pandemic. I didn't know, of course, none of us knew the pandemic was coming.
Yeah.
My husband and I were hosting a conference, and I was going to introduce the book at that conference, and that never happened.
Mm.
The book is entitled Wife Life: Securing Your Future. And basically, it is the other irony here is that by the end of that year, I became a widow. The book is really addressing women who are married or wanting to be married. And it's a guide, it's encouragement to prepare for the inevitable. So
And
I,
so this was a concept way before your husband passed away. Wow.
yeah, the book came out
Mhm.
in maybe like April of 2020, and he passed in September of 2020.
Wow.
And I kept saying this was not supposed to happen. And
Mm.
like, really, God, I have to be the example of what I wrote about,
Yeah.
really?
Mm.
But um it's a book that it reminds us that the inevitable is going to happen. And we get excited about the wedding day. And of course, we're supposed to be happy, all the bliss and all of the dreams about our future. But there's one thing that we don't really put a lot of emphasis on when we're thinking about the house we're going to buy, the car we're going to buy, how many children we're going to have, whether or not we're going to have a pet. And that is, what if something happens to either one of us for that matter? But for the wife, especially if the husband passed, because statistics say that women outlive their husbands.
Mm.
And that, I don't remember all of the statistics right now, but even there is a statistic that says that um, more women are more likely to experience poverty, so only a short period of time after their husbands pass. And so
Mm.
the reality is, if we don't prepare for that, then of course we could be one of the part of the statistics. So that means have insurance, consider investments. I don't sell insurance, but I learned enough about financial literacy long before the time came. I hate that I didn't learn sooner,
Mhm.
much sooner, but I learned in enough time to be okay. And I
Mhm.
have friends or people that I know who lost their husbands and didn't fall on such, it didn't fall in a good place. And
Mhm.
so they struggle. And I've been fortunate, and the fact that I wanted to get this information out to women even before I lost my husband, it still amazes me. But
Mhm.
that's generally what the book is about. It's a
Mhm.
guide to encourage women to make sure they know what's going on in the finances of their home and put it away, tuck it away. You don't have to look at it every day. I know I never
Mhm.
wanted to really have those conversations with my
Mhm.
um
So
so
for
a lot
the
of things I just made sure I got done.
right. So for the wives who are like plugging their ears going, nah, 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 right now. You
Right,
know, what would you say to them who, they don't even want to think about it, but listening to your story, they may be open to the message
right,
right now.
right.
Yeah.
Well, the book is not depressing. Let me
Mm-hmm.
start there.
Okay.
It starts out by telling, I share why I wrote the book and the fact that I had been watching this kind of thing happen to women since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I talk about my mom's experience, but it wasn't to losing my father to death, it was divorce.
Mm-hmm.
So that's still something to consider.
Mm-hmm.
I know nobody really wants to talk about a breakup or loss when you first get married, but if you carve the time out and have the conversation and make sure everything's straight, then you, like I said, you can put it away. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the book is not a depressing book. It just kind of outlines all of the things that you need to be considering to make sure you're going to be okay. And the interesting thing is, I'll tell this really quickly, is I did have a women's conference that same year where I was able to talk about the book. And one of the guest speakers that was presenting was
Mm-hmm.
listening to me talk about what was in the book and encourage women to, and she stopped me and she said, I have some work to do. I need to go home. And now you're not going to believe this.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband died the same day my husband died.
Wow.
But she was able, after the conference that I had,
Right.
go home. And she was his second wife, and there were adult children of his.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he had not changed a lot of the property he owned. He had
Mm-hmm.
not made sure her name
Mm-hmm.
on that line.
Right, right.
If
Mm-hmm.
she had not asked the questions, he
Mm-hmm.
never would have known.
Right. And that's not malicious. It's
No,
just
right.
forgetful, it's just
You don't think
looked at
about
the
it.
documents. Yeah. Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
we live our lives as if we're going to live forever. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we do. I
Mm-hmm.
was not expecting my husband to pass away. There
Mm-hmm.
were days where I was mad. I was mad. Like, how could you, like
Mm-hmm.
he could have helped it, but
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, but it's a cycle of life. It happens. That's how all of us are leaving here. And I feel like even if the conversation around grief happened more often in a different way where
Mm-hmm.
people would not like plug
Yeah.
their ears,
I know. I know. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So say the name of the book for us again.
wife life,
Mm-hmm.
curing your future.
And how can people find the book?
Well, they can either go to my website, they can go to thesabrinaj.ellis.com. That's the,
Okay.
not THEE, but the Sabrina Ellis, SabrinaJEllis.com, and it's on Amazon. You can also go to Amazon to get the book. And I had it done in an Audible. So
Oh,
it's,
great.
yeah,
That's the way I do it.
yeah,
It's so convenient though, you can do all kinds of things and listen to the book.
it's Audible.
Oh, so this is so helpful. I so appreciate this. And so before we end, is there any parting words that you want to say to our audience with that one takeaway that they can have from this conversation?
Listen, whatever you're surviving, be a courageous survivor. If you're trying to get past the emptiness issue or you've had any other loss in life, be a courageous survivor. And you start by taking care of yourself first. Self-care.
Oh,
Make
oh.
yourself a priority.
Thank you for that. And so how can people find you on social media and follow you? Where are
Oh,
you?
Lord, I don't know the Reverend Doctor is REVDR Sabrina on Instagram. And
Okay.
I believe it's the same on Facebook.
Okay, we'll find you.
You'll
All
find
right.
just always look for Sabrina Ellis. It's me.
Got it. Oh, well, thank you so very much for taking the time out to chat with us. I know that there are some good nuggets that the women in our community can take hold of and apply to their lives. And so just thank you for making the time to share. Appreciate it.
Having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Well, there you go. That concludes another episode of Blossom with Pride. Look forward to chatting with you again soon. Bye.